This is an AI avatar of Leasix founder Rob Lee. Script produced using a custom-trained AI employee in Claude. Video produced using HeyGen. Now let's begin. How should you approach strategic planning differently in 2026? That's the question we're tackling today. And I'm going to be straight with you. The way most agents plan their business is fundamentally broken. They sit down in December, they pick a revenue number out of thin air, maybe they write it on a vision board, then they hope for the best. And by March, that plan is collecting dust in a drawer somewhere. Sound familiar? Here's what you need to understand. The real estate market in 2026 isn't the same beast it was even 2 years ago. Interest rates are still elevated. Inventory remains tight. Consumer behavior has shifted dramatically. So your planning process needs to shift too. Today, I'm going to walk you through 5 modern approaches to strategic planning and goal setting that actually work in today's market. These aren't theory. These are tactics that top producers are using right now to stay ahead. Let's start with the biggest shift you need to make. Here's the problem with 12-month plans. The market doesn't care about your annual goals. Think about what's happened in the last year alone. Rates fluctuated. Buyer behavior changed. New competitors entered your market. Technology evolved. If you're locked into a rigid annual plan, you're essentially driving forward while looking in the rearview mirror. The alternative? Quarterly strategic cycles. Instead of setting goals once a year, you're doing strategic reviews every 90 days. This gives you the agility to pivot based on actual market conditions, rather than what you hoped would happen back in January. Now, I know what you're thinking. That sounds like more work. But here's the thing. It's actually less stressful because you're constantly course correcting. You're not carrying the weight of a failing annual plan for 12 months. You're addressing issues every quarter. And the data backs this up. Agents who've adopted quarterly planning tools report feeling less overwhelmed and more focused on important tasks. Thousands of agents are now using specialized quarterly planners that break down annual objectives into 90-day cycles with built-in review questions. Questions like, what did I accomplish? What worked well? What can I improve? These aren't just feel-good prompts. They're the foundation of adaptive strategy. Here's how this works in practice. At the start of each quarter, you set 3 to 5 focus areas. Not 20 goals, 3 to 5. Things like increase my conversion rate from lead to appointment, or expand my geographic farm by 2 neighborhoods, or implement a new follow-up system. Then every week within that quarter, you track leading indicators. How many calls did you make? How many content pieces did you create? How many follow-ups did you execute? At the end of the quarter, you review. What moved the needle? What didn't? Then you adjust for the next 90 days. This is how you build momentum. Quarter by quarter, not once a year. Let's talk about how most agents set goals. They say things like, I want to close 30 deals this year, or I want to make 200,000 in GCI. Those are fine aspirations, but they're lagging indicators. They're outcomes, and you can't control outcomes. You can only control the activities that lead to outcomes. That's where leading indicators come in. Leading indicators are the daily and weekly actions that predict your future success, things you have complete control over. For example, if you know your conversion rate from initial contact to appointment is 10%, and your conversion rate from appointment to signed agreement is 50%, and your conversion rate from agreement to closing is 80%, you can reverse engineer exactly how many initial contacts you need to hit your closing goal. This is math, not hope. So instead of saying, I want to close 30 deals, your goal becomes, I will make 100 prospecting touches per week. That's a leading indicator. That's something you control every single day. And when you track leading indicators consistently, something interesting happens. You start to see patterns. You notice that certain activities produce better results than others. Maybe your sphere of influence calls convert 3 times better than cold calls. That's data you can use. Modern strategic planning in 2026 requires you to know your numbers, not just your sales numbers, your activity numbers. How many people are you talking to each day? How many are entering your pipeline? What's your average time from first contact to closed deal? These metrics tell you where to focus. They tell you what's working. They remove the guesswork. And here's the beautiful part. When you focus on leading indicators, you actually reduce anxiety. Because you're not sitting around hoping deals close. You're executing activities that you know statistically will produce results over time. You're building a predictable business, not a reactive one. Let me ask you something. Do you have technology goals in your strategic plan? Most agents don't. They have sales goals, marketing goals, maybe some personal development goals, but technology? That's usually an afterthought. That needs to change in 2026. Technology is no longer a nice to have. It's a strategic advantage. And if you're not deliberately planning how you'll leverage technology, you're falling behind. Let me give you a real example. The Ashton Real Estate Group in Middle Tennessee recently implemented an AI-powered search tool on their website. Instead of forcing visitors to filter by square footage or number of bedrooms, people can just type what they want. Something like brick home with a big front yard. The AI delivers results instantly. No checkboxes, no complicated filters, just natural language search. And this wasn't an accident. This was a strategic decision. They looked at the friction points in their lead generation process and asked, how can technology solve this? According to recent industry data, 35% of agents are now using AI tools in some capacity. That number is expected to grow significantly through 2025 and into 2026. But here's what separates the winners from everyone else. Winners aren't just adopting technology randomly. They're being strategic about it. They're asking questions like, what takes up the most time in my week? Where am I losing leads? What manual processes could be automated? Where could I create a better client experience? Then they're finding technology solutions that address those specific needs. This might be a CRM system that automates follow-up. It might be AI tools for lead qualification or market analysis. It might be content creation tools that help you maintain consistent social media presence without spending hours every week. The key is being intentional. Technology integration needs to be a line item in your strategic plan, not something you think about when you have spare time. Because your competitors, they're not waiting. They're implementing systems right now that make them faster, more efficient, and more effective. Here's a counterintuitive truth about growing your real estate business. The more you narrow your focus, the more you actually expand your opportunities. Most agents think they need to work with everyone. First-time buyers, move-up buyers, downsizers, investors, luxury clients, commercial properties. And what happens? They become mediocre at everything, excellent at nothing. Compare that to agents who specialize, who say, I work exclusively with military families, or I only handle luxury waterfront properties, or I focus on investment properties in these 3 zip codes. These agents aren't limiting themselves. They're dominating. The data proves this out. Commercial real estate specialists earn an average salary of $193,000. Luxury specialists average $143,000, both significantly higher than generalist residential agents. Why? Because specialization creates 3 powerful advantages. First, you become the expert. When someone needs what you specialize in, you're not one of many options. You're the option. You know things other agents don't. You have relationships other agents don't have. You speak the language of that niche fluently. Second, your marketing becomes laser-focused. Instead of generic ads that try to appeal to everyone and resonate with no one, you're creating content that speaks directly to your ideal client. You know their pain points. You know their questions. You know what keeps them up at night. Third, you get more referrals. When you're known for something specific, people remember you. They can describe you in one sentence. Oh, you need someone who knows about VA loans and military moves? You need to talk to Sarah. That's all she does. Now, I'm not saying you turn away business outside your niche, but you market to your niche. You build your systems for your niche. You become known for your niche. Let me give you an example. Agents who focus on military families near bases understand the permanent change of station cycle. They know VA benefits inside and out. They've built relationships with other military families who refer them constantly. These aren't generalists hoping for business. They're specialists who own their market. The same principle applies whether you're focusing on a property type, a demographic, a geographic area, or a specific client need. In 2026, the question isn't, how do I serve everyone? The question is, which specific segment can I serve better than anyone else? Here's the final shift you need to make in your strategic planning. Stop setting revenue targets and start building systems. I know that sounds strange. Don't we need goals? Of course we do. But here's what I've observed. Agents who focus primarily on revenue targets tend to work reactively. They're always chasing the next deal, always scrambling, always stressed. Agents who focus on building systems tend to work predictably. They have processes for everything: lead generation, follow-up, client communication, transaction management, referral cultivation. Systems create consistency. Consistency creates results. Let me break this down practically. Instead of your goal being make $300,000 in GCI, your goal becomes build a lead generation system that produces 20 qualified leads per month. Then you build that system. You test it. You refine it. You make it repeatable. Instead of close 40 deals, your goal becomes implement a follow-up system that touches every lead 7 times in the first month. Then you create that system. You automate what can be automated. You schedule what needs to be scheduled. See the difference? One is an outcome you hope for. The other is a system you build. And once you have systems in place, something magical happens. Your business starts to run without you constantly pushing, because the systems do the work. You're not remembering to follow up. Your CRM reminds you automatically. You're not wondering who to call today. Your system tells you. You're not scrambling to create content. Your content calendar keeps you on track. This is how you scale. This is how you reduce stress. This is how you build a business that doesn't depend on heroic daily effort. Think about top producing teams. What do they all have in common? Systems. Documented processes, repeatable workflows. They don't wing it. They systematize it. And here's the thing. You don't need to be a team to think this way. Solo agents benefit just as much from systems as large teams do. So when you're doing your strategic planning for 2026, ask yourself, what systems do I need to build this quarter? Not what revenue do I need to hit. What systems do I need to create? Maybe it's a system for staying in touch with past clients. Maybe it's a system for neighborhood farming. Maybe it's a system for social media consistency. Build the system. Work the system. Trust the system. The results will follow. Let's recap what we've covered today. Strategic planning in 2026 looks different than it did even a few years ago. You need to shift from rigid annual plans to agile quarterly cycles. You need to focus on leading indicators you can control rather than lagging indicators you can only hope for. You need to make technology integration a strategic pillar, not an afterthought. You need to identify and dominate a specific niche rather than trying to serve everyone. And you need to build repeatable systems rather than just setting revenue targets. These aren't 5 separate strategies. They work together. They compound. When you plan quarterly, you can quickly adopt new technology. When you have clear leading indicators, you know which systems to build. When you specialize in a niche, your technology and systems can be tailored specifically for that market. Everything connects. Now, I want to be clear about something. This approach requires more intentional planning up front. It requires discipline. It requires you to track metrics and review results regularly. But here's what it gives you in return: clarity, control, predictability, less stress, better results. You stop reacting to your business and start running your business. The market in 2026 is competitive, more competitive than it's been in years. You can't afford to plan the old way anymore. Annual goals written on a vision board won't cut it. You need a modern approach, quarterly cycles, data-driven decisions, strategic technology, niche focus, system building. This is how you win. So here's my challenge to you. Block out 2 hours this week. Seriously, get it on your calendar right now. Use those 2 hours to map out your next 90 days, not your whole year, just the next quarter. Pick 3 focus areas. Identify the leading indicators you'll track. Choose one piece of technology to implement or optimize. Define your niche more clearly, and design one new system to build. That's it. 2 hours, 90 days. 5 focus points. Then at the end of the quarter, review. What worked? What didn't? Adjust and repeat. Do this 4 times. And by the end of 2026, you'll have a completely different business than you do today. A more focused business, a more systematic business, a more profitable business. Strategic planning isn't about predicting the future. It's about creating the future you want by being intentional about the actions you take today. That's the shift. That's the opportunity. Now go build your plan.